Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to see so many shining faces out here for the first Alpharetta City Council meeting of 2025. Appreciate your attendance this evening. And go ahead and call this meeting to order. Note for the record, all members of council are present and accounted for. And as always, we begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. And since we have a Boy Scout with us this evening, I thought I'd ask him if he could lead us in the pledge before we start the meeting. There's a microphone right there.
All right. On my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty to my God and my country, and to obey the Scout. Oh shoot, that's the Scout law. I'm sorry.
Let's start with the pledge now.
Yes.
That's great, though. At least you know it.
Yeah.
You want me to start you off?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the duty which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the first item up on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda has the City Council meeting minutes from the meeting of December 16th, 2024, a year ago. Do we have anyone that would like to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment cards on the consent agenda?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to speak to this item, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Heitz, a second by Councilman Mitchell. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Good start to 2025. So we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. And if you will, please, Ms. Tracy, announce the public hearing procedures for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the public hearing procedures. An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow the proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application, and opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the original allotted 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. So the first item under the public hearing portion of tonight's agenda is E-25-03 Reese/120 North Trace driveway exception. Mr. Woodman, I believe you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you is an exception to allow a circular driveway with two driveway curb cuts less than 300 feet from each other on a .63 acre single-family detached lot. This property is located at 120 North Trace in the Andover at Northtown subdivision. I have the location map on the overhead. This property is zoned R15. It was recently redeveloped with a new single-family detached home. The applicant lists in the application as the reasons for the exceptions being related to parking and accessibility. Property owners are a family with 6 driving-age children. The exception, if approved, would allow for more efficient ingress and egress to and from the property. The applicant also provided photographic evidence depicting 2 driveways on the property in conjunction with the home that was developed on the property in 1974. Of course, with the redevelopment of the property, city's codes triggered compliance with the codes, which the land disturbance permit was then approved with only 1 curb cut and 1 driveway. So this is the survey of the property. This represents the new home on the property. The land disturbance permit that was reviewed and approved by the city only showed this portion of the driveway. This is the piece that was added after the fact. We do have 4 review criteria for an exception that we looked at. We did not believe that there are exceptional conditions pertaining to this property due to its size, shape, or topography. However, as I mentioned, the applicant did show that there were 2 previous driveways on this property. I'll show you that. This is a historic aerial. You see a driveway on the eastern side of the property as well as on the western side. And then this is a picture of the former home on the property with the 2 driveways. This is the view of the property today with the new home and the circular driveway. Besides the fact that the applicant was able to show that there were 2 previous driveways on the property, the subdivision was developed in the 1970s. It was not developed with sidewalks, so it is not in an area that we would call a walkable area, although it is within a neighborhood. The applicant did provide a citizen participation report. They indicated that they had received no negative feedback on the request, and they also provided 8 letters of support. And then the item was shown to the public at the December 11th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments during that meeting on this request. And staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request, subject to 2 conditions as shown in the staff report in your packets. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Woodman. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm Scott Reese of Brumlow Reese & Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Here tonight representing the Michaels family and their application for the exception to allow their residents with the double driveway entrance. The applicant purchased the property with a active certificate of occupancy, and their realtor had a verbal comment from the city that the property was in good stead before they purchased it. They were unaware that they were in violation until they proceeded to apply for a pool house. As Mr. Woodman expressed, there was a house constructed on this property in 1974. It was in existence with a double driveway up until it was removed by the builder a year or so ago. So that being the situation, they were unaware that they were in violation. It is their hope. This was a primary reason to purchase this property. A key element was parking and access for their extended blended family, and they are fully aware that if it is allowed to stay, that they will have to bring the property into compliance with engineering and stormwater management. Thank you. If you have any questions, I will attempt to answer those, and the applicant is here behind me if we need to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And based on our procedures, we'll go ahead and take the opportunity, if there's anyone else who wants to advocate on behalf of this applicant, now is your chance to do so. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
Not for this item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Seeing no one come forward to advocate on this party's application, we'll go ahead and close public comment for people who are advocating for the project. Do we have any public comment cards opposing this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak against the item, now's your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment altogether. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll offer a motion this evening to approve E-25-03 Reese 120 North Trace driveway exception as presented this evening. Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, second by Councilman Dorito, both in favor of the item. Any discussion? Councilman Hypes?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to get on the record, first and foremost, it's a beautiful home. Thank you for your investment in Alpharetta. I mean, I've seen the photos, and it's quite a residence. The reasons for the second driveway being the need for parking and all of those things, if that were the sole reasons, I would not be in support of this. But I am in support of it because of the two driveways that were there at the time when you purchased the lot that was previously there. I could well understand why other people on the street would be supportive of a circular driveway in your home, because that could potentially be a reason for somebody to come in on the next application and say, well, they got a circular driveway, we want a circular driveway. My vote is based on the fact that you all had two driveways before, and you'll have two curb cuts after this. And if somebody else comes along and that's not the case, I'm going to recall this application, because I'm choosing to talk about it, to differentiate it, because we have this ordinance with the 300 feet separation, and it's there for a reason. And having said all that, to any of your neighbors who might be looking for circular driveways, I just want to put it on the record that you all have a unique situation, and I think your house looks great.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the item, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. So the next item up on the public hearing agenda is E-25-02, the Maxwell Blade sign exception. Mr. Woodman, once again, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item before you is a sign exception to replace the monument sign allowance with a perpendicular or blade sign. Property, I have the location map up on the overhead. The property is located at 210 South Main Street in the Maxwell mixed-use development. The applicant's reason for the perpendicular sign, it would be a better fit given the space limitations in the area of the proposed sign. Okay, here is the site plan. So this is South Main Street. This is the new realignment of DeVore Road. And so this is the commercial building facing South Main Street in the Maxwell development. The applicant is proposing to place the perpendicular or blade sign here at the very end of the building closest to Janice Lane or closest to Old Milton Parkway. In this area, there are some space limitations. There's the property, the building sits about 9 feet higher than South Main Street. There's a retaining wall that holds up the site in this location. And then there's limited space behind the back of sidewalk to the edge, to the front of the wall. And there's also a lot of utilities in this area as well, which limit the applicant's ability to place a monument sign in this area. So what the applicant is asking to do is to replace the monument sign allowance with a perpendicular sign and attach that perpendicular sign to the wall at this location. So this is a street view of the same location with the approximate location of the sign here on the wall. And then these are the applicant's sign plans depicting the perpendicular blade sign attached to the wall along South Main Street. The sign code allows for one monument sign for this property. That monument sign can be up to 10 feet in height, and with a copy area, so the area with the lettering on the sign, lettering and logo, could be up to 42 square feet. The applicant is proposing to switch, to change the monument sign entitlement to a perpendicular sign, placing it at this location with the copy area at 18.375 square feet, so substantially smaller than the maximum size allowed with a monument sign. And as you can see from the images here, the sign would be about 4.5 feet above the grade at the bottom of the wall. And the sign is overhanging this landscape area. That landscape area is about 15 feet deep, and the sign projects about 4 feet out from the wall, so it will not overhang into the public sidewalk. Looking at the review criteria for an exception, we did find that the property had extraordinary and exceptional conditions due to its topography. Again, the commercial village sits about 9 feet higher than South Main Street in this location. There are existing utilities within this landscape area that limit the placement of a monument sign. And then, as I noted, the copy area, the proposed perpendicular sign is much smaller than the maximum allowed for the monument sign. The applicant did provide a citizen participation report. They said that they were contacted by 2 nearby property owners with questions, and neither was opposed to the applicant's request after providing responses. Showed this to the public at the December 11th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments. With that, staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request for sign exceptions subject to the 4 conditions in the staff report in your packets. I do have one change to condition number 1. There's a date on the A1 Signs Atlanta sign plans in that condition number 1 that says 8/23/24. That date needs to change to December 30th, 2024. And the reason for that is we did ask the applicant to make a few changes to the proposed sign. So again, going back to the proposed sign, that's this right here. And so we asked for some changes to have a sign that had a little more historic character to the sign. And so we used this exhibit, Exhibit A, and in this exhibit it is referenced in condition 2 here. So again, the change in date in condition 1 is related to some changes that the applicant made to the sign to try to address our concerns about what the sign would look like. There would be final approval of the sign by Design Review Board if the sign exception is approved. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Michael. I think you covered it all, and I like the condition change to make it look more like it's been there for a while. How will this sign be lit? Will it have any internal lighting or?
I believe there is no illumination proposed with this sign. My recollection is that there is no illumination with the sign, but the applicant is here this evening and can verify that.
Okay, so by code, though, it would have to be externally lit, right?
Code would not allow for any internal illumination of this sign. It would have to be external illumination, correct?
Okay, I'll ask them. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for staff? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I'm not opposed to this at all. I think it'll look actually pretty nice. The sight lines coming out of Janice Lane, I can't recall. I frequent this location quite often, so I should know this. But inside Janice Lane, that's a right out and a right in. I don't think you can cross the median there, can you? Going into
I believe that's right in, right out. Let's see if I can.
Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
it looks like it's a full access, but
Full
I
access
can't
point?
quite tell from this aerial.
well, my concern is the going down Janice Lane. That's not a one-way either, I don't think.
Janice Lane is not
It's
a
not.
one-way.
So they're going to be coming down Janice Lane onto 9, making a left or a right there. How is the sight line on what's planned if that sign goes up there as far as being able to see vehicles coming down, making that left-hand turn?
So we did have our traffic engineer look at any site visibility issues, and he did not have any
And that was
concerns
fine?
with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman? Thank you, sir.
right.
Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Dormany. I'm with A1 Signs, and this is Manny Deek with me. We're here representing the Maxwell for the owner of the property. We're with A1 Signs, 6334 Buford Highway in Norcross. In response to the question about lighting, the design board did recommend that they wanted it to be a type of a floodlight, but there were some changes with Mr. Woodward, and so I did remove that from the plans that you saw because there was some discrepancy about how the letters would light, and with some of the changes in the lighting, I was afraid it would cause the letters to be illuminated, and so I did remove that until I could speak to the design board about it. But that had been their recommendation, for it to be like each panel. Can we look at that? Thank you, Manny. This is Manny Deek with me. But yes. Each tenant panel is actually like a framework, and the design board had recommended that we put a little bit of a cascading light down that, but I can address that more with them. At this point, my customer is fine for it to be lighted or not lighted, whatever the recommendation is.
Is there anything else you'd like to say in advocating for this opportunity?
It has been a long road to get here in front of y'all. I came on about 6 months ago and began with the design board trying to move this forward. The shopping center, I think, has been trying to get a sign put in for a while and have been through many revisions. So I appreciate all the input, to get us to a nice looking sign. And I think it's going to be really, something that will be, very pleasing. It's not in the way of the traffic at all, but it will get the tenants that have no visibility on the road some visibility, and help grow the community.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and advocate on behalf of this applicant, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to speak against this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment altogether. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? So, Seeing no other questions, do we have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to approve E-25-02, the Maxwell Blade sign exception as presented this evening.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm sorry. Let me back up. Including the recommendations from Michael to change the date that is currently in there from 8/23/24 to 12/30/24.
And the second was Councilman Brady. Any discussion? Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you. It would just be my recommendation to Design Review Board that they follow our design guidelines on, and that it would simply, if they want it lit, it would simply have a soft illumination from two lights on both sides. It would not have any kind of modern floodlighting or LED. We don't allow that. And so I'm not sure who on the design board was thinking in that direction, but that wouldn't be allowable for our downtown. And I'd like to ask my fellow council members if they would entertain with final approval from staff so that we make sure our guidelines are followed with the lighting.
Is that acceptable? Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Next item up on our agenda is PH-25-01, continuing change of condition. Mr. Woodman, once again, you have the floor this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next request before you is a change to conditions of zoning related to the continuum mixed-use development. The letter of intent in the applicant's application indicates that the change to the condition relates to challenges in the office leasing and lending market. Applicant states that renovations to the existing office building are needed to be started before they could market the for-rent portion of the mixed-use development. This property is located at 5555 Windward Parkway. This is the location map of the property at the corner of Westside Parkway and Windward Parkway. And the request is to extend the one-year reversion clause from 2025 to 2026. This relates to condition 4D, which is the condition of zoning related to the for-rent residential portion of the development. As you probably recall, with mixed-use developments, we do have concurrency requirements with for-rent tied to the office development. Within this particular development, as you may remember, there's an existing office building, the HP office building at the corner of Windward and Westside. And with the concurrency requirement here with an existing office building, what we tied it to was the modification of the existing office building. So the repositioning of the office building with this cut through at this location here. So the applicant has made some steps towards implementing the mixed-use development since their approval in October of 2022. The applicant has taken several steps, including a land disturbance permit for the repositioning of the office building. They've been to Design Review Board with their community standards and the existing office building repositioning. They've had intergovernmental agreement approved. We've got the building permit approved to reposition the existing office building. They've done a minor subdivision of the property, and they are underway with the construction activities related to the repositioning of the office building, which began in October of 2024. The applicant did provide a citizen participation report, indicated that they had received no comments. They also showed their request to the public at the December 11th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments at that meeting. With that, staff is recommending approval of their request to change condition 4D related to the continuum mixed-use development and changing the reversion date in the last sentence of that condition from if a building permit is not issued by October 17th, 2025 to the year 2026. So again, just changing the date to 2026. Residential units shall revert to for sale only. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Woodman at this time? Councilman Brady?
Yes, Michael, just, I guess anytime we have a change in conditions for such a large project, it always kind of brings up a prudent question based upon where the applicant, this is not critical to the applicant, it's more from a land planning perspective. For us looking at planning the resources and the allocations of entitlements, have you had any conversations with the applicant at this point that might lead you to execution risk, or more importantly, additional changes that might come through the entitlements that they can't or they haven't designed to yet? Or are you seeing this with the applicant as they just need additional time? And I understand the 1.3 million office, I mean, it's a lift in today's environment, so we understand the time. But in your conversations, what I'm trying to get to is, do you see any changes that might be coming to the current entitlements?
Yeah, so we have had some conversations with the applicant. They've given no indication that they intend to change the continuum mixed-use development that council approved in 2022. So they've just indicated that they needed this additional time to find the right for-rent developer. They needed to get the office repositioned before they could really market that to a for-rent developer. But they've given no indication that they intend to bring additional changes forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman at this time? Thank you, sir. Well done. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, here with the team from Southwest Value Partners. So we are here on a very limited request. As Michael mentioned, and as you all recall, in late 2022, the Continuum project was approved. It was approved with 41 conditions. And we are here for a very discrete modification of condition 4D, which is the extension of 1 year for the for-rent component. So this, as Michael mentioned, there has been a lot of work that has been done. I think that hopefully you all may recall from the past and even since the approval, communications with the property owner. They are committed to quality and excellence and want to make sure that they have the right residential partner on board, and it's taken some time, but Joe is here to tell you a little bit about the progress that has been made. You might have some questions, and we've got a couple of photos, but certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have about the request, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for seeing us today. We have been hard at work. It may not always seem that way when you drive by the site, but I'm sure that you can now actually see progress occurring at Continuum. We've been very steadfast in making sure that we follow the mixed-use master plan that we set forth, that we so carefully worked through with you, with staff, and then we're doing the right things along the way. In the interim, we've had this wonderful recovery out of a pandemic, a change of the world. We've had to navigate through all of those things and still deliver an excellent quality product, an excellent project itself that makes us all proud. We did bring a couple photos today kind of show some of the advancements that we are doing. When I say heads down, you know, everybody believes that once we come see you sometimes, construction should start immediately, instantaneously, and be done at the same portion. It does take us quite a bit of time to work through the actual design drawings, the design plans, make sure all those technicalities actually align. So what we did do in the interim time is really get that office plan done, and we're investing just over $17 million in the repositioning of that building. It will feel like a brand-new building when it is done. What you're seeing before you, we're at about the halfway point. Those photos are from just a few days ago, so they are completely current. We are scheduled to finish with the core and shell, meaning the exterior of the building, kind of the bones of the building itself, really right around May. So we've got about 5 months to go on that repositioning itself. On-set investments will continue to happen as tenants come into the building. Then we're going to be doing the tenant improvements on those, and just you'll see continuous improvement on those pieces. In addition, we have contracted with a design group to do all of the infrastructure design around the project. You've seen us probably go back in, and Mr. Woodman mentioned, we have subdivided the property into pieces, which is in alignment with our master plan and our intent for the master plan to develop the individual parcels into the mixed-use vision. To do so, we obviously need to align ourselves with the right partners. So we are out there actively talking with the progress that we've made on the building and the pieces and entitlements that we have in place, the marketing and alignment with another developer that specializes in multifamily, another developer that specializes in single family. Those are not necessarily our specialty, right? But we like to align ourselves with the right best-in-class piece that delivers the right vision. So that is what we are doing on the site. I encourage everybody to drive by. We will have a pretty great office kind of grand opening, probably in May, which everybody will hopefully attend. You'll continue to see us advance this project towards being the cornerstone of the kind of the northern piece of your property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any other advocates on behalf of this project?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, now if you would like to come forward and advocate for this application, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we have any opposition that would like to come forward and speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comment on this item. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, do we have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion this evening to approve PH-25-01 continuum change of condition as presented to us this evening.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, a second by Councilman Mitchell. Any discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of the item, please vote yes. Congratulations. Thank you very much. So the next item we have, public hearing, will be PH-24-24, Unified Development Code Text Amendments, Recreation Facilities Indoor, Historic Preservation Incentive Flag Lots, and Procedures. Ms. Tracy, would you mind reading the ordinance title, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it looks like this is a long one, so here we go. Consideration of text amendments to subsection 2.2-14C, C1 Neighborhood Commercial, Conditional Uses, and Table 2.2 List of Permissible and Conditional Uses of Article 2 of the Unified Development Code to add recreation facilities indoor as a conditional use in the C1 zoning district. Consideration of text amendments to subsection 2.3.1E, general exemptions, flag lots, and subsection 2.9.5, incentives available to historic properties following designation of Article 2 of the UDC to add regulations allowing flag lots as an incentive for saving a historic structure. Consideration of text amendments to Article 4, procedures of the UDC to amend various fees associated with the public hearing process.
Ms. Tracy, congratulations. I think you have set a record with the length of that second reading. So,
I wish I could take all the credit for it.
but we appreciate it. Ms. Cook, I believe you have the floor on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading, and there hasn't been any changes since the first reading, but I can answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for Director Cook? Thank you. Well done. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
I do have one for this item, and that is for S.C. Escobedo, if you'd still like to speak. Oh, my apologies. We have no cards for this item.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak in favor or in opposition to this item, now is your chance to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to approve PH-24-24, Unified Development Code text amendments, recreation facilities, indoor historic preservation, incentive flag lots, and procedures, as was presented this evening and at the last meeting.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilman Brady. In discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this item, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, Director. Ms. Tracy, the next item is PH-24-17, Unified Development Code, UDC text amendments, short-term rentals. If you would please read the ordinance title for this item.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this will be consideration of text amendments to Section 1.4, definitions of Article 1, Table 2.2, list of permissible and conditional uses of Article 2, Section 2.7, miscellaneous regulations of Article 2, and Section 4.5.5, exceptions of Article 4 of the Unified Development Code to add regulations pertaining to short-term rentals.
Thank you very much. Director Cook, would you like to speak on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, this is actually our third public hearing on this item. And at the last public hearing that we had, the staff had come forward with a change to add the CUP zoning district, and we've added the MU zoning district, so all residential zoning districts within Article 2 of the UDC have been added. So that's why we had an additional public hearing. But here to answer any questions you may have about any other part of this section of the UDC change.
Do we have any questions for Director Cook at this time? Thank you very much. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do have one for Ms. S.C. Escobedo. Oh, okay.
Psych. However, if there's anyone else that would like to come forward, now is your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council? Oh, I've lost our Mayor Pro Tem, so we'll give this a moment. Not long at all.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd like to offer a motion tonight to approve PH-24-17, PH-24-17, Unified Development Code, text amendment, short-term rentals.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? All those in favor of this item, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item. On a related matter, the Code of the City of Alpharetta text amendments, short-term rental regulations, and licensing. Ms. Tracy, once again, we have a wonderful ordinance title that we'd love to have read.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. So this is consideration of text amendments to the Code of the City of Alpharetta to establish a short-term rental ordinance. The proposed short-term rental ordinance will regulate properties otherwise authorized for short-term rental, to include appointment of a registered agent, to impose certain requirements and restrictions regarding the use of properties for short-term rental, to establish an annual licensing system and a fee for same, to provide for enforcement and penalties for violations, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. You're
Thank you.
welcome. And I think I am up to present as well to you all this evening. So this is the accompanying portion of the code that will go along with the UDC revisions that Ms. Cook just presented to you all. And this, like the last item, I believe this is the third time this has been before this body. The version that is in your packet this evening is the same as the one that was reviewed, I believe, at the December 16th meeting, with the exception of one small change, which was discussed at the last meeting, that discusses the application requirements where the property to be short-term rented is owned by a corporate entity, and clarifying the type of information that would need to be provided on the application in those circumstances. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Tracy at this time? Thank you very much. Ms. Shapiro.
We do have 2 comment cards. Essie Escobedo, would you like to speak on this item?
My name is S.C. Escobedo. I reside at 5000 North Somerset Lane. I serve on the board of our HOA as treasurer, and I've been working over the last 2-3 years to finally get to the point where we're going to have an ordinance to govern short-term rentals, which I'm very happy about. And the only, I understand, and I just want some confirmation, that in the application, it will be required that the applicant show proof from, if their property is in an HOA, that the HOA would allow for that short-term rental to be in that community. That's my understanding.
This isn't really a question and answer at this point, but I'll have staff address your question.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank everybody for making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shapiro?
We have one other comment card turned in this evening for Frankie Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know this is probably very happy to see this topic finally put to rest. My name is
Haven't voted yet, so.
My name is Frankie Elliott. I'm with the Atlanta Realtor Association, Wells to 400 North Realtor Association, and we just had 2 technical requests to the ordinance that I just want to present to you, and I'm not 100% sure, but these should follow the same subsections and numbering. The first would be section 10-433, which has to do with the local contact person. Currently, with the way the ordinance is written right now, it only allows for 1 contact person to be registered for a short-term rental. We're asking for there to be at least possibly 2. And the reason for that is that you also further in the ordinance require that the contact person be available 24/7, 365. And people do leave town and need to leave town. So we just wanted to have the option to put 2. So if the original one isn't available, that there could be a second one on there also. And so we would just ask if that would be a change to the ordinance that's written that you would be considering. That way there would at least be somebody in town at all time that could be reached. The other issue has to do, which is section 10-435, which is additional operational requirements and conditions. At the end of the ordinance, there's a requirement for the owner to post certain information inside the rental unit, which is fine, but it also requires that the name of the owner and the local contact person be included in that. And we're asking that the requirement that the owner be not required to be in there, because that's the whole reason you have a local contact person, is so that if there is an issue and somebody does need to be contacted, that the contact person is the one that they would reach out to. And as you mentioned, if the owner happens to be a corporation, you're going to have the name of the corporation and probably a business number that chances are they're not really going to get much of a response from that owner anyway. So those would just be the 2 requests, 2 slight changes to the ordinance that we would request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions and look forward to working with y'all on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tracy or Director Cook, would either of you like to explain the question from Ms. Essie?
I can address it unless Ms. Cook would like to, but there is a provision in the ordinance that requires the licensed applicant where the property to be rented is in a platted subdivision, that there be a sworn statement that there is not, that it's not prohibited by any covenants. And of course, if someone were to make a false statement, not only would it be a potential criminal offense, but it would be a violation that could potentially revoke the person's license to continue to operate the short-term rental. So there would be an enforcement mechanism.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Does anyone from council have any questions for staff at this time? Councilman Will?
Just for clarity, I believe that the question was, is the subdivision required to approve it? And that is not the case.
I don't believe that is how it's written, no.
Okay, it's just that the client, or the person that owns Airbnb has to say that they can do it. The subdivision has nothing to say about it.
That's right. I don't know if staff on an administrative basis is going, I don't know, Ms. Cook may want to chime in here. I don't know what practices have been developed yet, if any, in terms of what kind of vetting the application would receive in terms of looking at property records for, HOAs.
We would keep records, because it's going to be easier for us to cross-check with HOAs that have reached out to us and, told us what their requirements are. But we still have to require that any applicant sign that sworn affidavit, just like we do for we do sign permits, and people have to sign that they have permission to place a sign on somebody's property. If somebody's going through a zoning, they have to sign that they've given permission, and it's a sworn affidavit that they have permission to be there. And there's certainly ways to follow up if we find that that's false information.
Councilman Mitchell.
Ms. Cook, while you're there, help me understand. I'm just curious. The nice lady who spoke from the Atlanta Board of Realtors. Why? I think these are good ideas, especially if there's a party at the house and we as a city or our police wants to contact the owner to and have that kind of contact. But why the Board of Realtors? Why they're interested in it? Do you know?
I'm not sure why if it's some of their members that had that interest within the neighborhoods. I'm not sure why they would be interested.
I know you've talked with her about it, so I was just curious as to what the correlation.
No, I didn't ask why she thought that was something that needed to be changed.
Okay.
Did not, sorry.
Perhaps I can get with her afterwards. Thank you.
Any other questions from council on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, we did receive just now one additional public comment card on this item. I don't know if you would entertain that, but did just want to bring it up before.
Sure, why not?
Joanna Martin, did you want to come forward?
Is this in opposition or in favor?
No, I do own some short-term rentals. I had Joanna Martins, 120 Dana Drive, Alpharetta, Georgia. My question is, because based on the last meeting, I wanted to clarify of the 5% or 10% cap, if that has been resolved, and what happens to those neighborhoods that have surpassed the 5% cap? Is there going to be a grandfather provision where we'll be still able to operate with all these new regulations?
Is that your question?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand.
Like I said, this isn't a question and answer, but if you're finished with your question, I'll have staff address it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think this is in the UDC portion. Is that right? Yeah, so do you want to?
Director Cook.
I'm not as familiar with those UDC revisions because I'm the fill-in, but
There were two questions. One of them is within the UDC, and that's the 5% cap. The regulatory portions, of course, would be how we look at the grandfathering. And what we talked about, and Councilman Dorito had asked the last time about if the 10% cap, does that include the 5%? And yes, it does. We clarified that. So as far as the grandfathering, I had some other questions too from Councilman Will, because our code currently states, it's vague in the code in general on grandfathered, because I think you have to, Molly had said you have to look at each individual. One of the things that we had talked about at the last meeting is staff coming back within 120 days and then talking about if we've had any issues with people that wouldn't be able to be grandfathered and why those issues happened, so that you could see if there's something that needs to be looked at or amended within the code. And I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just, to piggyback on what Director Cook just stated, not only is grandfathering perhaps vague in the code, but it's not that it's vague, that's how state law is as well. It's not vague. No, it's not vague, but it is a fact-based analysis that you have to look at a case-by-case scenario. There is nothing that we could put in code or in state law that would say, here's the checklist for grandfathering it. It's always going to be a case-by-case fact-based analysis. So I hope that addresses council's question and the member of the public.
Thank you, Director Cook. Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Do we have any other public comment?
I do not have any, Mr. Mayor.
However, if there's anyone else that would like to come forward, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I would offer a motion to approve Code of the City of Alpharetta Text Amendment Short-Term Rental Regulations and Licensing with two changes. Number one, Section 10-433 shall be changed from one contact to require two contacts, and to change Section 10-435 space 1A to say the name of the owner and/or local contact person of the short-term rental and a telephone number at which the party may be reached on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Member Merkel, if I may, just to clarify that I understand the motion with the change on the first part regarding change from one contact to require two contacts, are we making that mandatory that they have to provide two local contact persons, or is that an option that we are providing on the application if they wish to list two contact people?
The language reads requires two contacts.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Dorito. In discussion. Councilman Will.
Based on that change, does that in any way, is that in any way in conflict with the previous thing we just passed?
With the UDC
Yeah.
amendments? I do not believe so, because the UDC amendments is only spelling out the uses and where the use is allowed. This is the regulatory mechanism that allows individuals to come in and get their license to be able to do this. What I do want to point out is that there are some other places in this regulatory ordinance where we talk about what happens if the one local contact person is not available. That will likely need to be cleaned up as well if we are now requiring two persons.
Can we pass this now and then go back and clean it up later? Or does that need to be cleaned up before we pass it?
What I thought we were doing tonight with this motion, because this is brought up through public comment, the way that it reads right now for the local contact person is that that local contact person may be the owner, it can be another individual, or it can be a management company if the individual so chooses to employ a management company to do their day-to-day managing. my understanding of this request would be that that this would allow on the application for it to be, if it's not a management company, that it be allowed to be up to 2 persons. I feel comfortable that if we do that, that we can clean up the rest of that. It's just changing it from 1 to 2 in the rest of the sections.
So you're saying that what we're about to pass with these changes is going to have its own conflict within what we're doing, within this?
No, because the motion would be to change that anywhere that it needs to be changed within the ordinance. So any place that it says 1 local contact person, that it would
So
then follow
he
to have
currently
2.
has it as required to have 2. You're saying that we need to change that?
Not necessarily. I just need clear direction from council as to what the will of council is.
Again, can we make that change after we vote for this, or once we vote for it, is that not able to be changed? I guess I'm questioning if this vote is going to cause problems.
Well, the vote would, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hypes had a point to make.
Well, I was going to offer us a suggestion, if we're going to have 2 contact persons required, to just short cite 2 contact persons, parentheses, quote, contact persons, and conform all the internal language to the short cite, which
Right.
refers back to the definition of who those contact persons are. So it would be Mayor Pro Tem's motion, and we would just make the internal language conforming.
Yes, I agree that that does it.
I have no idea what you said, but okay.
Not speaking lawyer, I think what he's saying is there's no need to change the motion, that you just follow by changing the language to accommodate the motion. That make sense? Councilman Mitchell.
On a different note, I'm happy that we are going to review this, and I hope we'll go ahead and put that on the books within 120 days. I'd hate to see a legitimate business put out of business because it wasn't brought to our attention that they should be grandfathered in or should not be. If we need to make those changes, I hope we can do that more readily than longer. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Dorito.
Well, it's been a long time coming. And I remember meeting Miss Elliott at the initial public hearing, I believe, right? We spoke in the back afterwards. We had a great crowd and a lot of input and discussion from folks, emails. Council's worked really hard with staff, and staff's really kind of carried the load on this, along with our city attorney, to bring it to this point this evening. And I think this is a really good ordinance and regulations around short-term rentals in Alpharetta. I think our goal is to maintain a sense of community in Alpharetta and not have Alpharetta become a commercial rental community. And I think this, what we're doing tonight achieves that, but at the same time respects those folks who have done a really good job with short-term rentals in Alpharetta to date that will be grandfathered and continue to do what they're doing and the investments they made in this city to attract people here, whether it be short-term or for a temporary period of time where their homes are being built or renovated or what have you. So I'm really happy about the result of all the hard work that went into this. Much of thanks goes, like I said, to our staff at the city who's worked really hard on getting to this point this evening and listened to a lot of input from many people in the community, and that's the way government should work. So congratulations, everyone.
Any other discussion? I'll just say once again, I congratulate our staff and everyone who's worked on this, people from the public on both sides of the issue. And it reminds me that a theme since I've been on council that I think we've shared quite often is it's better to get it done right than to get it done right now. And I think we've shown how seriously we took this issue from both sides, We've been thoughtful, we've been methodical. Our staff has spent a tremendous amount of time addressing the concerns on both sides. And so I think we've put in the time and the effort as a community together, and I'm satisfied that it will not stay in this form forever because we know things will change. We probably change our alcohol ordinance multiple times a year, and we've been doing that for decades. But the fact is that we try to get it right, and we learn from our mistakes, and we learn from experience. And so I do support this item, and all those in favor of this item, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Okay. It looked like you had voted on my board, but, so there, I'm colorblind, so it doesn't look that different to me. There's a lit up dot there, so I apologize for the confusion. There is one abstention, and it does pass 6 with 1 extension. So we'll move on to the next item. The next item is public comment. So if there's anyone here who hasn't had an opportunity to make their public comment, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing none come forward, we'll close public comment. Do we have any reports this evening? Seeing none. Do we have an executive session necessary this evening?
We do not.
Excellent. 2025 is off on the right foot. So seeing no executive session required this evening, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mitchell, second by Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please vote yes. And it is unanimous. There were no abstentions. This meeting is adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again soon.